I've been working at a Subway store for years now. Lame, I know, but it's great money, relatively easy, and I've truly made some lifelong friends whistled working there. Anyone that worked in any sort of fast food shop is bound to have their fair share of horror stories. A friend of mine that used to work at a McDonald's almost got tasered when she went to take a customer's money through the drive-thru. Crazy shit. Anyways, apart from being robbed once, while working at your general drunkie stores, I've never had much of a story to tell until last week. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was there until like 5 p.m. and having to start work that day at 6:30, I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. It was around 3:30 when the other girls that I was on with started complaining she felt really sick. I told her I'd be fine working until 5 by myself. So she left. We aren't supposed to do that, and I was probably shouldn't have. But what can you do? So she left and time trickled by. We were dead as anything, so I got pretty excited when a customer walked on through. He looked like he was in his late 40s, had balding black hair and ridiculous thick glasses, and a very sad demeanor about him. I greeted him with the usual "Hi, how is your day?" in the most cheerful tone I could muster. "Fine," was what he managed to mumble out. "Aren't customers awesome?" He began ordering his sub, a process that usually takes me under a minute depending on how decisive the customer is. The particular customer, however, was usually choosing each and every aspect of the sandwich with such care. It was like it was going to be his last meal in the world. After 5 minutes debate on what cheese he wanted, I whisked his sub into a toaster. I hated awkward silence during a toasting time, so I liked to spark up a conversation with the customer. I began asking about his day, and he so far had told me that is one of the worst days of his life. That day before I had two experience of a shit kicker of the day and began to retell my experience. How it started was a 10-kilogram box of chicken schnitzel falling on my head. How my phone fell out of my work locker and the cold, hateful tiles obliterated the screen. How I then had to scratch a bus home from work only to realize 20 minutes in and it was the wrong bus and the complete opposite side of the town. And how it ended with me walking home and it was pouring rain to find a lockout. Real shit day to surprise the grumpy, indecisive man was now howling with laughter with tears pouring down his face. No, I meant it was kind of funny, but not that funny, although I was glad to see he had some sort of happiness in him. I finished up his sandwich, and he went and sat in the restaurant happily chomping away. 10 minutes later, he came up to the counter and asked if he could borrow a pen. I handed him one, and he took a napkin and went back to his table. A further 10 minutes later, he returned with his pen and the now scribbled on a folded napkin. He handed them both to me and asked me to promise not to read it until he was out of the shop and out of view. I clearly agreed, and he left the shop and walked out into the highway that is in front of my store. I watched as the car screeched around him, and he was walking with a care in the world to the middle of the grass island that separated the two sides for a few very long minutes. He stared down the highway and into the coming traffic. He like he was judging when a good time it would be to cross back over, but that couldn't be that. I thought, what the hell was he doing? As if he had heard my thoughts, the man turned to me with a big grin pestering across his face and started waving, a bit of confusion and very creeped out. I waved back. It was then that he stepped out of the front of the log truck. I have never seen someone get hit by a vehicle before, and I never wish to again. I shoved the naked into my back pocket, leaping over the counter and the bottle outside. His body was laying 200 meters up in the highway. People were screaming and crying. It was a total chaos. I ran to him where a small group of people were gathered. I kneeled in front of his baldy, mangly body and immediately started bawling up my eyes. It was that just 5 or so minutes ago this man was standing in front of me. Well, truly alive. And now he's dead. It almost unrecognizably. It was then that I remembered the naked. That is what it said to my dear fellow human. Today I decided that I was going to be my last day on this horrid earth. It would have been so horrid if my beautiful wife and daughter were still alive, but they're not. And today is the 1-year anniversary of their deaths. 1 fucking year since the idiotic drunk driver crashed into them at 100 kilometers at the intersection. They did not deserve to die that night, but they did. Since then, I am not the same person. Hell, who could I be? I'm just some shell of a former self. Most people don't bother me anymore. And I know I came off as a rude, but I didn't think I had any positivity left in my life, in my soul. Until today, I hadn't have a laugh or smile for the matter in a year. But you achieved the impossible. You made a sad old man cry tears of happiness. I wanted to thank you for that. For you having to put me in cloud 9 and made me realize that life isn't all bad. But this is truly what I want. I needed to be with my daughter and my wife, and that is what I'm going to do. So again, thank you for making my day, making it a wonderful year, and helping me leave this earth with a smile on my face. P.S. Great sub!